held together. He is also the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, again the word firstborn, from the dead, so that he himself might come to have preeminence, is the word, place, first place in everything. I'm going to make this very, very simple. So I got this very, very simple image. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but this is what it means. Throughout the universe, everything was created by Jesus and for him. We got that right? Okay, for him, by him, through him, and for him. And then Paul moves into the area of the church because he says, of all humanity, there's one group of people in which Jesus is Lord over all. While the world rebelled, there's a group of people on the face of the earth that is submitted to the lordship of Jesus, and that is his body, the ecclesia, those called out of the world into a relationship with Christ, right? Ek, out, ecclesia, gathering. You've been called out of the world, out of sin, out of darkness. He just told us that in verse 13, into a marvelous light, into a relationship with Jesus, and we gather together to assemble. Think about this. The only reason we came today is because of Jesus. The only reason why you're and I here is because of Jesus. Truly because of him, nothing else. Now, can you convince an atheist that a Jewish carpenter that lived 2,000 years ago, it is absolutely the center focus of your life? And they laugh. And they laugh because they say how ludicrous that is. Some Jewish carpenter from Nazareth is really the creator of everything? Yes, my friend, because God, in all of his majesty, contracted into a span. John Wesley said, Charles Wesley, contracted to a span. He says, God of God, contracted to a span, incredibly was made man. Beautiful song. He just could not imagine that the God of the universe, who the universe cannot be contained, could come and reside in a human body, contracted to a span, amazingly became a man. And that same man was a Jewish carpenter from Nazareth who walked along the shores of Galilee, never lived outside of his homeland, 200 miles, never lived outside 200 miles of his home, never wrote a book, never went to university, never had a kingdom, never held office, never ever did the things that usually lead to greatness. But I tell you, my friend, that man has more of an impact on this world than any other man. Has an impact on my life, made an impact on your life. This one solitary life. There's a poem, there's a beautiful poem, One Solitary Life, that Jesus never did anything remarkable that we would say, oh man, what an amazing life he did. He did this, he wrote a book, he wrote that, he climbed the highest mountain. No. And yet no one else has had such an impact on my life and on your life than this Jewish carpenter. Because he wasn't just a Jewish carpenter. He was God of God, the very God of very God, the one who we hold dear and he holds our existence in his hand. It's the very one that came and became a man. But look at this, out of all people, Jesus is the head of the body, the head of the ecclesia, the head of the ones who have been called out. So I made it very simple. Now you got two screens, now you can see it. I just had to get out of the way. Christ is the head. Believers are the body. But something happens along the way. Sometimes we have Jesus and we have a board. And that is the church. That's the head of the church. And then the body just follows, but now becomes a two-headed monster. It's what Christ wants and what the board wants. And many times it's not the same thing. But add another complexion to that. We have Jesus, and we have the board, and then we have the denomination. Now it's a three-headed monster. And the church is completely confused. Why is there so much confusion? Why is there so much multi-directional things in the church? Why have we lost direction and dynamic in the fellowship and the true church of Jesus Christ, the true ecclesia? It's because Jesus is no longer the head. It's in a spastic body. Sometimes the head has been cut off. And now the body is a headless wonder. It's a headless body with no direction, no dynamic, or it could be terrible, multi-directional confusion that's in the church. And I'm telling you, my friend, the place that it should be, that Jesus is the head, is the place where Jesus is relegated to just a figure. Just a figure. Just someone that we say we worship. But in reality, when we get into the meetings and when we get into the direction of any church, it's not what Jesus says, it's what the board wants. It's not what Jesus said, it's what the denomination says to do. It's not what Jesus wants, it's what is more comfortable for all of us. And that is not a church, my friend. Because a church is when Jesus is the head. That is the true church. A true church is when Jesus calls the shots. And we pray all the time here. We don't boast that we have arrived at any time. But we pray that Jesus is the head. And we pray that Jesus gets to have preeminence. Preeminence in this fellowship. But that is the problem. If you want to surmise it, this is the problem. You want to surmise the problem, that's what it is right there. We no longer care and no longer inquire. What do you really want to do? You're the head. You're responsible for the direction and the dynamic of this fellowship. What do you want? And we don't get it. We don't get it. But take a look at this. If I were to tell my wife, babe, you are important among other women in my life. Depending on her, and maybe your wife, depending on her too, she would wonder, who are all these other women that you have? Well, you're important, babe. You are important among them. Not only would she want to know, I might have, my dinner might not be available for quite a few months. But think about this. How dare we tell that to someone, right, that we love and say, you're important among many others. Why is it so offensive? Because she wants to be the one. She wants to be the important one. She wants to be the one in my life. And rightly so. And how dare we go to Jesus and say, Jesus, you are important, but you're important among many other things in my life. You're just important about, not denominational, and you got the direction of the board. But your opinion counts too, Jesus. You're just as important as all the other ones. And Jesus says, no, I'm not having that. Because he should have the preeminence. He's not among all the other opinions. He is above all the other opinions. You see how that works? And in the church, we get so confused. We go, well, why are we doing that? I don't know. Somebody voted for that. Well, why are we going in this direction? Why are we heading toward ecumenical? Why are we heading toward emergent? Why are we heading toward that? Well, because it's cool. And people like it. And it makes people comfortable. And it fills up the place. Has anyone asked Jesus what he really wants? Has anyone asked Jesus what he really thinks about ecumenism? Has somebody really asked him? Oh, we don't want to know. That's a bigger problem, isn't it? When we don't want to know. But preeminence. He is the first and above everything. Think of the miracles of Jesus. Isn't the miracles of Jesus to point to himself? All the time he was pointing to himself. When he fed the 5,000, what was he pointing to? That he is the bread of life. When he healed the blind man, he healed more than that, but more than just one. What was he saying? That he is the light of the world. When he said that he is the true vine, he was telling us that without him we cannot live, we cannot function without him. And it was all pointing to himself. He says, you are in need of me more than anyone else, more than anything else. He is preeminent. And our relationship to God should be preeminent. That means that there's no need for anything else besides Christ. But we have surrounded ourselves with so many other things. And I'll tell you what, in the area of theology and teaching, there's so many things that could become preeminent other than Jesus. Books and theology and philosophy become so distracting to what Jesus wants to do. So he is the true source of truth. He is the true source of life. And we need to go to the true source to get anything in our lives. He is that important.